Hello, everyone. It's Warriors NRL Fanatics. Welcome back to the channel, and joining me tonight to preview the Penrith Panthers New Zealand Warriors clash, Magic Round clash for round 10 this coming Saturday is Jack and hopefully Natalie when she rocks up soon. But apologies there. I think she's a little bit late, so we've got another guest coming soon. So. First thing, Jack, welcome to the channel. It's good to have you on for the very first time. You guys do a great job there with the Big Chat podcast. So make sure you go and give them a follow on all the platforms there on Instagram and Twitter, and also their podcast is on Apple and all the podcasting apps as well. So they run a good Penrith Panthers podcast as well. So Jack, it's good to have you on the channel. For the very first time. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for your kind words about my podcast. So yeah, everyone, if you like hearing two people ramble on about the Penrith Panthers for an hour and a half, just go check it out.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, we'll get into it. Actually, I mean, first things first. We'll go. How did you become a Penrith Panthers fan? And who was your favorite player that you grew up current, past, and present that you enjoyed the most?
Well, I'm actually born in Penrith, so It was pretty much, straight away Penrith supporter. My family are Penrith supporters. My mum went to the first ever Penrith Panthers game. My dad, he's not from Penrith, but once he moved to Penrith, was a Penrith fan. So I reckon I pretty much had no other choice than to be a Penrith supporter. I first got into rugby league itself and the Panthers as a consequence when I was in kindergarten at school, and a couple of the players did a school visit, and instantly from that moment, the great Penrith fullback Reece Wesser was my favourite player, and he was my favourite player all the way up until the end of 2008 when he left. Then for a while it was Michael Jennings, then he left. Then it was Josh Mansour for ages. He's my all-time favourite player, Josh Mansour. And then, of course, he was moved on at the end of 2020. And ever since then, it has been James Fisher-Harris. I love that big man.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what is your favourite memory game that you attended or watched? Obviously, I'm pretty sure you will say the grand final. Obvious one. But is there any other sort of game that stood out for you beside the grand final? Or was that the only one?
Well, the grand final last year is probably the favourite I've been to. Then the one the year before was my favourite one I've watched. Obviously, I couldn't go because it was in Queensland. Aside from that, it would probably be week one of the finals, 2014. We finished fourth that year, and we versed the Roosters, who finished first. And I remember we were massive outsiders. No one gave us a chance. It was the first time this squad had played finals. And, the Roosters were the reigning premiers. And I remember the betting odds had us as like the biggest outsiders in finals history or something like that. And we ended up winning the game. I think it was 19-18. Jamie Soward kicked a field goal with 5 seconds to go. And that was just my favorite memory at a game. I remember going absolutely insane. And I was like, surely it can't get better than this. But the last couple of years have shown me that actually it can. But yeah, that's awesome. And what are your thoughts on the past few years as a Panthers fan? Because obviously Penrith have had some tough years as well. I mean, some people may forget they had some tough years, just scraping into the finals or also missing out on the finals as well. But what are your thoughts on the past few years? Obviously, you've gone through some times where there actually were tough times, which is hard to believe right now. But you had some tough times and have come up and now been one of the powerhouse clubs, over the past 2 years. So, what are your thoughts on the past few years as a Panthers fan? Well, they've been a dream come true, really.
Yeah,
it's the kind of stuff that I spent my entire life as a rugby league supporter dreaming of being the reality. When we went 7 years without making the finals or whatever it was and stuff like that. And I just never thought it would be as good as it is. It's an absolute dream. There are some things that take some adjusting, getting used to it, like everyone celebrating so hard when your team actually does lose a game. Or like the chased club and not being liked as much. But it's things like that you're more than willing to trade in for the team to be good. It takes a little bit of adjusting at times, and sometimes I still have to get used to the fact that people don't like us anymore, but more than happy for that to be the case, really.
Yeah, and on that, actually, I was going to ask you, what are your thoughts on that? Because a lot of people, when the Panthers won the premiership, a lot of people like to, label the club like, they say they're cocky and, they're arrogant and they're a bit up themselves. And, a lot of people like to think Penrith is that sort of way, some of the players and that. But, personally, from my point of view, I don't mind it. Like, it's good to have a bit of character in the game. Like, I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Jack, on that, what are your thoughts on that? Because a lot of people aren't really big fans of people that players that get a little bit too cocky and arrogant. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I certainly think they are, and I understand why it might rub certain people the wrong way, but I like it. I go, you've earned the right to be like that. If you're as dominant as you have been, I feel like you kind of are allowed to, show off how good you are, maybe rub it in the face of the people you beat. Because at the end of the day, if these players didn't really have these egos that they have or anything like that, they probably wouldn't be as good. Every player at that level has a pretty big ego. And like they work real hard to get to where they are. And I kind of feel like if you don't like it, well, just embrace it and then celebrate harder when it is going to end, because eventually it is going to end for Penrith. Every team has their cycles, so I'm like, just take it in. Don't cry about it all the time.
Yeah, and what for you has stand out the most? Like when you went on to win back-to-back premierships. Obviously, that no team has done that in a very long time. I believe Brisbane were the last team to do it, winning back-to-back premierships. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on what has stood out the most when you won those back-to-back premierships? So whether it be the coaching or whether it be the talent coming through, because you've had Gus Gould as well be involved in the club for a while there, and you've also had some young players coming through your under-20s, your New South Wales Cup team won premierships, your SG Ball Cup won premierships. You had a lot of success, not just in your first grade side, but through to your lower grades as well. So what are your thoughts on that? Regards to your junior grades and your players that you've had coming through the system.
Yeah, well, I think the whole setup that Gus helped implement nearly 10 years ago now, or whatever it was, you can certainly see the advantage of it. It paying off with what's happened the past few years. And so that's been really great to see. And, like you said, with all the junior ages and the reserves and everything, also winning titles, it shows that at every level of the club, there's strong players, and that if they can hold on to those players, they should still be good for a long time. I think the biggest thing for me has been the attitude in defense that has come in ever since Ivan Cleary returned to the club, because we've always had talented players. There's a lot of juniors already in the Penrith area, and Penrith already invest heavily in the other areas and stuff. So they were always going to have the juniors, but it always seemed like every group of juniors ended up being sort of like a false dawn. And every few years they would have to move on and we'd bring in a new group, almost like a mini rebuild within the club. And it was almost like it was a failure of an idea to just build a premiership rather than buy one. But that was because I think we tried too hard to outscore opponents. I always felt like we'd rather win a game 30-28 than win it 18-4 kind of thing. And so that's one thing that I've really, really noticed. And, sometimes people will talk about, especially this year with a bit of a rough start, the way that the attack isn't quite up there with how it has been, but the defense is still there. And so that's what I just love as a supporter, is when my team is defending well, I know they're going to be okay. And, whether that means that they win the comp or not, at least they're going to be competitive. And so I've really loved that element, especially ever since Ivan returned.
Yeah, and on Ivan Cleary, he's come to, we know Warriors fans know Ivan Cleary pretty well. As he used to coach us for many years, and we Warriors fans are always big fans of Ivan. He's a former player and used to coach the side as well. So I've always had a soft spot for Ivan Cleary. I've always had a soft spot. I love Nathan Cleary. I mean, he's one of my favourite Penrith players. I like to watch Dylan Edwards as well. So they've got some great players that I like to watch, especially. So I can't really hate Penrith. A lot of people do, because it's purely based on success. Because you won your premierships, and then people don't like the teams that win a lot of times. So that's what it is at the end of the day. So I mean, like you said, you're well said on that. But regards to Ivan Cleary, he went to the Tigers. He went to the Tigers, and it didn't really work out there. Gus, what were your thoughts back then? Because Penrith, they sacked Ivan. I believe they sacked him. Is that right?
Yeah,
they did sack him, and he went to the Tigers. And after a while, he decided to come back. And you had Hook Griffin there as a coach as well. So
yeah. I was always a massive Ivan fan, and I was massively disappointed when Penrith sacked him. I was always a big believer in what Penrith were building, and I was always backing it, because you would get fans be impatient at times and stuff like that, because we weren't winning many games or whatever. But I was like, no, I believe in what we're doing. We're building for the future, all that stuff. But that was one decision I massively disagreed with, was sacking Ivan Cleary, because I felt like we took 5 giant steps backwards when we'd just taken 5 forward, And I was like, it's like we're starting again with a new coach, because Hook Griffin came in. He got rid of quite a few of the players that were some of my favorites under Ivan, players like Elijah Taylor, Lewis Brown. And it also, just on top of that, when Hook was there, the footy wasn't as good, it was pretty boring. It was a lot of just relying on Matt Moylan to do something. And then after that, James Maloney to do something. And I felt like there were a lot of good, talented players in there that weren't developing to how well they probably should be. And so I was always very critical of them sacking Ivan. But then, even though I didn't really like Hook as the coach, I was critical when they sacked Hook, because I was like, look, I'm not really happy with him, but I don't want us to start again once again. I was like, I don't want us to have to keep starting every 3 years. But then once it became the reality that Ivan could return, I was like, all right, sweet. All right, see you, Hook. Ivan, straight back in, please. Because, as a Warriors fan, I'm sure, you, like you said, you have that love for Ivan, because we've seen what he can do. He's a very good coach, Warriors to a grand final. He took Penrith to the top 4 before getting sacked. He took the Tigers to 9th, which is basically a grand final for the Tigers. Then, I was like, he's a very, very good coach. And so I was really glad, when we did bring him back, even though it kind of upset a few Tigers fans.
And obviously now with Ivan coming on board, you also had Andrew Webster. He was part of the coaching staff at Penrith. So what are your thoughts on Andrew Webster? Obviously, Andrew Webster's he's been around. He's had caretaking gigs. He's assistant coaching gigs. So what were your thoughts on Andrew Webster? Apparently, was it Nathan or someone like that? Had high regards for Andrew Webster when he was there. So what were your thoughts on him? What he brought to your side in that assistant coaching role?
Well, so he was, because he had an assistant role at both the Warriors and then at the Tigers for a while, and he was the interim at the Tigers before Ivan got the job, and then stayed as the assistant under him. And Yeah, I was quite pleased when we brought him over, because we brought him over when we lost Trent Barrett, and even though
Yeah,
he was running the defense at the Tigers, he came in to run the attack at Penrith,
yeah,
and Penrith's attack was still great. And I was like, okay, well, he can coach attack, and he has experience in coaching defense, and so like I was very happy with what he brought to the club because I was like, he's got that defensive attitude, which I love, but he kept the attack going. And then I actually thought he was a massive loss and but a huge gain for the Warriors. And I think you can see it now with the way that Penrith's attack is looking slightly worse than what it was. And the way the Warriors have improved both in attack and defense. You can see that it's a very good signing for the Warriors, and he almost feels like the perfect guy to be there. He's been at the club before. He understands how it works. He's not going to scream at the players in a way certain other former Warriors coaches have. And
yeah.
I think he's just
Sure.
the perfect guy. He's someone that he clearly tactically understands how to set up the team, but I think he's also someone that the players clearly like. And I think that's a massive thing a lot of the time. It's like if you can help make it a happy club, it'll go a long way to it winning.
Yeah, and Jackie, I just got a comment here. I'll just read out here. So Jackie's saying folks gone about players that Penrith have lost, but losing Serrato and Webster may have hurt a lot. Yeah, well, what are your thoughts on that? Because you also lost Cam Serrato as well to the Bulldogs as well. Although the Bulldogs, obviously it was a hard coaching job to turn down. But what are your thoughts on that? Losing Serrato as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. It's definitely a very big loss, both of those coaches leaving. I'm not sure whether it's a bigger loss or a smaller loss than losing, say, Coruscant kick out. But I
Yeah,
think people were definitely underestimating how much of a loss it was going to be until this year when we've seen how well both of those coaches have done at their clubs. You see the way the Bulldogs are playing, they're not quite getting as many wins as the Warriors are, but they're still in games where you'd think under previous coaches they kind of would have given up and maybe lost by 50 in certain weeks and stuff like that. And so you can see that both of them are doing quite a good job. And it makes you weirdly proud to know that they came from your system. You can sort of get sometimes a bit bitter about players leaving, but with the
yeah,
coaches, I'm
yeah.
like, oh, I'm just really happy to see them doing well because I'm like, oh, great. Now people at other clubs can see how good these guys were because I could see it from being a Penrith supporter, but I'm like, I'm glad that they've got their opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously you lost quite a few players in the off season as well with
Yeah,
Coruscant and Kickow. Just what were your thoughts like on when they left? Obviously they were very good players for you guys for quite a while, and part of the reason why you won those premierships, especially
yeah,
Coruscant, is a very important player in your hooker spot there. He's always one of the key players, and you can see the likes of Cleary and Luai, they were become better players with Coruscant on the
yeah,
side. So yeah,
yeah.
what are your thoughts on that? I thought Coruscant was probably one of your biggest losses going into the season.
Yeah, I agree. I think they were massive losses, both of them. But with it, I'm happy for them that they've gotten this opportunity to take a big deal somewhere and get paid, because that if players are going to stay at a winning club, they kind of have to take pay cuts in order to fit all of those good players in. So I'm at least happy that they got premierships with the club, and I can go like, thank you for your service as well. And it is interesting because I think we've gone back to back, and we're trying to go for three in a row. And I think motivation can be a very big factor. And so if there's any players out there who even are half thinking about leaving, no matter how good they are, I kind of want them to go because you want to bring in new players that are hungry for it, that maybe haven't won a comp yet. And I guess it's about finding that balance of keeping your really good players, but moving on the ones that seem to be satisfied with what's happened already and bringing in, newer talent. But both of them are massive losses. I think Coruscant is the best hooker in the game. It's between him and Harry Grant, surely.
Yeah.
And then I honestly think Kickout is the best back rower in the game. I think he is. He came into the league, doing all the crazy flashy things like the big runs, the big fens, and the offloads and stuff. But I think he's developed into so much like more than that. He's such a hard worker. He does all the dirty work that you want a good back rower to do. Protecting his halves, taking those dirty carries, and all that stuff. And I think that side of it is definitely missed as well. I think you've seen with the left edge, Luai has struggled without kick out next to him. And it's like we don't have the same sort of like fluidity out there, and everything is taking its time to develop. And so both of them are just massive losses. And I definitely agree with what you're saying about Coruscant improving Cleary and Luai as players. I think they learned a lot off their time with him. And it's definitely interesting to see them adjust to playing with a different style of hooker in Mitch Kenny, and then quite a similar style hooker in Sonny Luke, who's quite similar to Appy, but not as good.
Yeah. And well, why don't we get into the preview now? Actually, speaking of the preview for this week's game, it's coming up on Saturday afternoon down there at Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane. Magic Round. It's one of the biggest events of the year on the NRL calendar, and I will be attending it. So I'm looking forward to being there and watching the boys live as well. So it's going to be awesome. But why don't we get into the preview now? So we'll start off with the team list. So we'll go through the team list first. Jack, why don't I get you to go through the Penrith Panthers lineup, and then I'll go through the Warriors lineup.
Okay, no worries. So at fullback, we have the great Dylan Edwards. On the wings, we have Sunia Taruva and my man Brian To'o. In the centers, we have the experienced, I'll call him that, Tyrone Peachy and Stephen Crichton. In the halves, we have Jerome Luai and our co-captain Nathan Cleary. Our front rowers, we have Moses Leota and returning, finally, James Fisher-Harris. At hooker, we have Mitch Kenny. Our second rowers are Scott Sorensen and Zach Hosking. Our lock is our other co-captain, Isaiah Yeo. Our bench is Sonny Luke, Lindsay Smith, Liam Henry, and Jamin Salmon. And in our reserves, we have Jack Cogger, Luke Garner, Tom Jenkins, Spencer Leniu, and Chris Smith.
Yep. So to the Warriors lineup now. So we've got Chance Klukstad. He's back in the fullback spot this week. So it's great news for us. Also on the wing, Dylan Watini-Zalesnik. So he returns to the wing there. Marcelo Montoya in the centres with Adam Pompey and Edward Cozy on the wing there. Dylan Walker in the 5'8" spot with Sean Johnson halfback, Adam Fanua Blake the prop, and Wade Egan's the hooker. Bunty File in the other prop position, Jackson Ford second row with Marata Niokore, and Tohu Harris has been named in the lock position, which is a bit of a surprise actually. I was a bit surprised by this one. I thought it was going to be out for quite a while, so I'm not too sure whether he will be playing this week. He's been named to play this week, so we'll see what happens there. But he's named this week in the team. So you got the bench of Bailey Sirenen, Josh Curran, and Dimitri Safakula, and Tom Ale, and the reserves Freddie Lussick, Tane Tuapiki, Viliami Valia, and Ronald Volkman, and Culling Going. And the match official for this one is Todd Smith. So, yeah, what were your thoughts on the Panthers lineup? Any surprises for you or not really? What are your thoughts on the Warriors team as well?
Well, firstly, I was relieved to see James Fisher-Harris return. I think he's been a massive miss. Some of those other players in the middle have been doing a lot of work covering for him, but we saw on the weekend that they were starting to get pretty tired, having to do it for a few weeks, and then it definitely didn't help losing Matt Eisenhuth to injury. So it's a massive relief to have him back. I was a little surprised that Tyrone Peachy is still at centre. I thought he looked very much off the pace against the Tigers, and perhaps it was showing that if he is going to play any part in our team this year, I kind of think it would be an off the bench role, similar to what Salmon has been doing, or filling in for Sonny Luke like he did against Canberra, where you just limit his minutes rather than playing him for 80 at centre because he didn't quite look fit. Hopefully he just needed that 1 week and then he can be on it. But other than that, I'm fairly happy with it. I like consistency in the team rather than chopping and changing too much. And I think that's where the Warriors have really benefited this year. Like you guys have had a lot of injuries, but you look at when everyone's fit, what the team's going to be. Like players like Corsi and Pompey and Montoya and Wateni Zelezniak, that being the back line, I think that's really helped because I think I was confused about who was even going to play for the Warriors this year. But then it's been the same guys every week when they're fit. But then in terms of with the Warriors team, I'm surprised that Tohu Harris has been named. I'm disappointed he's been named from a Penrith perspective because he's one of my favorite players in the NRL. He's definitely my favorite Warriors player. I think he's absolutely amazing and massively underrated. So I'm wondering whether he is going to play because surely if he's not 100%, you don't risk him at this time of year because I'm expecting the Warriors to play finals based on the start that you guys have had. So, I don't know whether his injury is a case of getting worse if he plays too early or anything like that. But I'm just surprised to see him named, especially at Magic Round, because we know that field's going to get pretty badly damaged with all those games being played on it.
Yeah.
But, the Warriors medical and coaching staff know better than us about how he's doing. So if he plays, that's a massive, massive in for the Warriors because he's a phenomenal player.
Yep. Just going through the comments here. So you got Jacko. He's saying Fisher Harris and Leota, two top class front rowers, both keys which hurt. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that comment there? And Fisher Harris, we know Fisher Harris is probably up there as one of the great one of the good forwards in the game, and Leota as well is pretty underrated as well. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. Everyone knows how good Fisher Harris is, and I think as a result, people don't quite realize just how good Leota is. He is an absolute hitman. He is not afraid of anything. Whether he has the ball or whether the opposition has the ball, he just likes causing absolute carnage. And when he first debuted in 2016, I wasn't that impressed by him. I kind of thought he was just one of those players that makes it pretty far by just being large and then doesn't really progress as a player. But I'm so glad to say that I was so wrong on him. He is an amazing player. I think he was a massive, massive part of us getting through the early part of the grand final last year because it stayed at 0-0 for about the first 15 odd minutes. And I think the work he did in that time period, just beating up the Parramatta players, went a long, long way to helping us get through that game and to us running away with it as the game went on. And he hasn't missed a beat without Fisher Harris there at all. So it's been really good to see the way he's progressed over the past few years, especially since James Tarmo ended up leaving and he took his spot. So I've been really, really impressed with him. But now I'm just glad, that his partner in crime is back and that we can see them both together again.
Yeah. And just to comment, Jacko's saying it, in my opinion, Tohu Harris should be rested, miss the next 2 games in the bye and return home town of Napier for the game against the Broncos, who are missing the Origin players. Yeah. I mean, I think it is a bit of a risk. I mean, you don't really want to play a player who's Harris. He's had a lot of injuries over the past couple of years, especially this year as well. So, it's interesting, isn't it? It's really interesting in regards to Tohu Harris. I don't know whether he will play this week, but we'll see what happens there. Maybe he might pass his fitness test or whatever he's doing to get ready for the game. So, yeah, so on to the key matchups. So, what matchup on the field you're looking forward to the most? There's quite a few good battles. You got the fullbacks, Dylan Edwards and Charles Kluckstad, who's coming back into the side. You've got Cleary, Nathan Cleary versus Sean Johnson there, who Sean Johnson's having a very better year than he has in the past couple of years. But what are you looking at for key matchups in terms of on the field?
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to the battle of the fullbacks. Nickel Kluckstar and Edwards. I think they're two very similar players in that they're massive workers for their team, and I think they become slightly underrated how good they are with the ball. Because you just see them working and working and working all the time. And so I think that'll actually be a very good battle because it's almost like who's going to work more out of the two of them. They both have massive engines. But then I think the forward pack will be very interesting, especially if Tohu is playing. The battle of the locks. You're not going to get many better battles than Harris versus Yo. Two of the premier locks that we have in the competition. I think that's a real good one. On similar lines to the battle of the fullbacks, where it's these workers up the middle. You almost kind of think that it might be won and lost based on who's better out of the two, out of the 1 and the 13 for both teams. And then the wingers as well. I feel like all 4 wingers in this game, all very, very good players who have almost gone under the radar a little bit this year. I think the way that they start their sets, they get so many meters, so many post-contact meters. And I think that'll be a really interesting one to see, especially I'm not sure what the weather's going to be like up there in Brisbane, but I think the wingers will play a very big part in this game. But then, of course, like you said about Sean Johnson, his return to form this year has been absolutely amazing. He's so much more complete as a player to what he used to be. So it's going to be really good to see him going up against Nathan, who I think has still been very good, but has been a little bit below his best the last sort of 2 weeks, apparently carrying an injury. So it'll be very, very interesting to see whether he can keep up with Sean Johnson, who has, he's kind of reminding me of like Cooper Cronk, the way that he's been playing, where he's just this complete halfback who does all of the little things for his team that they need to get them through a game. And it's been really good to see. So, hopefully from a Penrith perspective, he doesn't do that on the weekend.
Yeah, and the four pack's really enticing. Like Jacko is saying here, he's saying that Adam Finnerback fronting up to Leota and Fisher Harris will be enticing. So I do agree there. And the Wobbling Jaw Sports channel has joined Sam Rebel.
Hey,
Sam. Massive
how you doing,
Cowboys
Sam?
fan. Yeah, it's good to see you, Sam. Hope you're doing well. He's saying you're 25 degrees and sunny all weekend, boys. That's great to hear. Awesome to hear. Because last year I went up to Magic Round and it was pissing down with rain. It was bucketing down.
It was awful, wasn't it? Yeah.
it was a pain. It's sort of the only thing that ruined that weekend for me. So it's great to hear that it's going to be sunny all weekend. So, and I'm pretty sure the crowd will be sold out. Or should be sold out by now.
You'd think so, yeah.
I think so. But so looking at the betting prices, it says that the Warriors are paying $3.75 at Sportsbet, and the Panthers are paying $1.28. So, what are your thoughts on those odds? Because it's a bit out there, isn't it? The odds,
yeah.
They're not giving us a chance. I know for a fact.
No, I think that's very disrespectful to the Warriors, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm almost tempted to put some money on the Warriors at that price. Jeez, that's handy. That what $3.25? Did you say? That's wow. I can't believe that. And then Penrith being such short odds, that's odd to me. I don't know what they're getting at with that, because it's almost as if they've based that betting market on last year. When we've played 9 games already this season, we can tell what every team's like. I'd be having it much, much closer than that.
Yeah, and Jack is saying the Panthers favourites, but those odds are ridiculous. Yeah, I do agree.
Yeah.
I do agree that the Panthers are favourites going into this one because
Yeah.
you really see the Penrith side go 3 losses in a row, which is something you just haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
So. And they'll be you guys will be hungry, obviously, to bounce back from that loss against the Tigers. So I do agree on that one that Penrith definitely deserve to be favourites, but it's a bit of a long odds. The odds are a bit disrespectful, I think, personally. But
massive agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So looking into the bench here, so if you were to rate the bench, who has the strongest, impact coming off the bench, who would you say? Would you say Penrith, you guys would have the strongest bench, or do you think it'd be like 50-50 each way? Because I think looking at your bench, it looks a lot better than ours. I'm not gonna lie. So
yeah, I think we have the better players on our bench overall, but I think you have a much bigger bench than us, really. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see the way this matches up because with sunny 25 degrees, I can see there being a lot of room for a more versatile sort of bench. So that's where I think it might be more suited to having players like Sonny Luke and Jamin Salmon on the bench. But then you still do have Bailey Sirenen and Josh Curran on there, who are 2 very, very good players. I would say that those 2 players are better than anyone that we have on our bench. I would say over the 4, ours is probably the stronger one.
Yeah. And I think if you look at it, I think you guys probably have the talent of Sonny Luke in that. I think Sonny Luke comes on, he's going to create a bit of a havoc for the Warriors defensively as well. So I think we're going to have to watch out for him coming off the bench. So, but yeah, I do agree that if I was to look at the benches and compare them, I think Penrith do probably have the wood there, in my opinion. So that's what I think personally. Yeah. So looking into the stats, so the stats for the scale one, both teams played 45 times, and the Panthers have been pretty dominant here. So you got 28 wins to the Warriors 16, unfortunately for me, but you'd be happy with that. 1 draw. There's actually been 1 draw, and
I was at that game. Yeah.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, where was that game? Where was that game? The game that we drawed.
That was in 2009, I believe, at Penrith. Pretty sure the Warriors had a really big lead, and Penrith brought it back. It was kind of in that era when both teams were decent but couldn't defend. They could both score points.
Yeah.
I think it was something like 32 all or something like that. Something ridiculous. So.
Yep. Yeah. So 1 draw there. Obviously, both teams come into this game. Warriors are sitting in 8th, and the Panthers in 7th on the ladder, and Warriors 5-4 record, and the Panthers coming in this 4-4. So completely different to what we'd expect going into this game, actually. So yeah, there's a bit of a surprise in itself. So obviously it's only early in the season, but we're 9 rounds. This is 10 rounds now, so it's a bit of a surprise in itself that the Panthers are in 4-4 at this stage.
Yeah, it's I probably saw us being like 6-2 maybe.
Yeah.
But 4-4, that all of our losses have been really tight. There's been 2 1-point losses. There's been a 4-point loss, and I think the other one was also 4 points, maybe 6. So I go, the losses, they hurt, but at least they've been close games, and you go, we're clearly in every single game that we've played. But then you look at the improvement from the Warriors this year. Who would have thought they'd be this high up? I thought the Warriors would have a decent year, but nowhere near this. I know that the 2 teams are in 7th and 8th, but the Warriors have been one of the most impressive teams I've seen all year. I I think they've just been a bit unlucky having had diverse, the Storm and the Roosters 2 weeks in a row kind of thing. But overall, some of the best performances I've seen all year, like that comeback against the Sharks a few weeks ago, that was just absolutely incredible.
Yep.
Yeah. I just found it, by the way. It was a 32-all draw in 2009.
Oh.
So absolutely no defense there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Warriors were up 20-6 at halftime.
Oh, that'd be
typical.
devastating from my point of view. Yeah, just be up by that margin, had to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen us do that before, like many times. Like have good leads and then just losing. We've seen the Titans recently had a lead against the Dolphins.
Yeah, that was very bad. That one, wasn't it?
Yeah. Then they came back, and the Dolphins came back. So
yeah.
I mean, anything more you'd like to add on regards to that? Because we'll get into the predictions for the try scorers and the score prediction. But anything more you'd like to add on regards to this game? Do you think it'd be? Do you think your boys will get up and win comfortably, or do you think it's going to be like a very close encounter? What are your thoughts?
I can see Penrith winning. I think Penrith will win, but I mean, I think they'll win every week, to be honest. But I think it'll be a very, very close game. And I think it's going to be the game of the round, to be honest. I think they're two very similar teams, both with very good coaches. And you can see, both coaches, whether in a head coach role or an assistant role, have had success at both clubs. So you can see the similar identities between the two teams, the group of players, the way they play. So I just think it's going to be a very, very interesting matchup. I expect Penrith to win, but not by a lot, to be honest.
Yep, yeah, and look, I mean, I think for me, it's obviously going to be a bit of a test, no doubt about it. It's a tough test, always coming up against a team like Penrith because, you guys are back-to-back premiers for a reason. And although you're not being as consistent this season so far, I dare to say it. Still, you guys are a threat, and still going to be one of the threats at the back end of the year. I reckon you guys will be still up there, They'll still be in that top two sort of position on the ladder. I think personally, how close it is at the moment. The NRL has been very close, actually. There's only a couple wins, separating first to eighth and to down the bottom. So that's how close the season's been. So it's the first time we've seen the competition really close like this in a while. So a couple of wins,
been a long time,
back up. Yeah, Rockies back up the ladder. So so Jacko's saying both coaches know each other well, so it'll be interesting what tactics they come up with. That's for sure. It will be. It'll be really interesting because it's Webby up against Ivan. So two coaches that have worked with each other for quite a while. But now they're up against each other. So it's going to be really interesting there. So, look, in regards to this game, I'm probably I will back the boys in here. I know it's going to be difficult, but, he's obviously saying Penrith will win, but I'm going with my heart. So I'm going to back the boys in. I've got to back the boys. You got
to sometimes. Plus, it's not outrageous to think the Warriors would win either,
Yeah, I mean, it could happen. We just got to front up.
Yeah.
I know that we've got some injuries at the moment, but we've just got to front up, next man mentalities, and that's the good thing about Andrew Webster is he doesn't come up with excuses. What I've listened to in all his press conferences, he's just a coach that says, right, it's next man up. We don't make excuses at the end of the day, and that's the good thing about it. And a lot of our fans can be, say we have had injuries, and sometimes we don't get the calls go away on the field with referee decisions and that. But look, you've got to try and take that out of the equation and, just perform on the field. So, for me, I'm going to go with the Warriors to win. I'll go Warriors 24-16 as my prediction. And what about you, Jack? What is your prediction for the Panthers? How much do you think you guys will win by?
I think the Panthers will win, I'm going to say 16-12. I can see both teams, being pretty good in defense, so I can see us limiting to each other to 3 and 2 tries each. And I'm going to say 16 because, I don't think Nathan Cleary will kick. And so I can see Stephen Crichton, who's a good kicker, getting 2 out of 3. and then at least that'll make an exciting finish. You know, the Warriors will still be in a chance of winning it down to the last play, I reckon.
Yeah, and the last couple of Magic rounds I've attended to, they've not been kind. I'm not gonna lie. You know, we've been outscored quite a lot of those games. You know, especially that game against the Bunnies last year was a complete nightmare. We started off pretty poorly, but we managed to come back, but it was a little bit too late. You know, we allowed too many points in early on. That was
right. Yeah,
a bit of a tall order. So. Yeah, I think we lost that game 30-30 or something like that.
I think it was that, but it was out to like 32-6 at some point, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, they looked long gone that game, and we were just throwing it around, you know, just chancing our arm in that. So I just hope it doesn't get to that stage again. You know, we've got to start off well. You know, just make sure we apply pressure on you guys, especially. So start well. I mean, the Tigers showed the blueprint sort of in the way I know it was weather conditions, different field, but you know that's sort of have laid the little blueprint there, and on being Penrith. I think South did it too last. Was it a week or two ago? You guys played South, so
the week before,
that was a very good game. Actually, it was a very entertaining sort of game. But I think we can get up. I mean, I think we can get the result. It's going to be hard, but I think we can get the job done. I think it'll be a close game as well. So. Yeah, try scorers for me. I'll probably say for you guys, I'll probably go with Stephen Crichton. I think he's one of those try scorers that can get up and find the line. And Brian Toto as well. I think Edwards will score a try as well. I think he might score a try in this game. And for the Warriors, I'm going to go DWZ and Edward Cozy. What about you for try scorers? What do you reckon?
So I'm going to go. I'm going to say Isaiah Yeo is going to score a try. I think, just the work he does through the middle every week, I say he's going to score a try because I think he deserves one. Then I'm also going to say that I'm going to go with you with Stephen Crichton. I think he's been finding a little bit of try scoring form lately, which is good to see. And I'm going to say Jerome Luai because he has Tyrone Peachy outside him. And if I was him, I would be doing everything I could possible to not pass the ball to Tyrone. So I reckon he'll go over for a try himself. And then for the Warriors, I'm going to say Wade Egan. He's been a try-scoring freak this year. I love Wade Egan. And I'm going to say Dallin Wataneza-Lesniak. He's just always seems to get a try, doesn't he?
Yep. Yeah. And Jacko's saying an interesting stat that of the 7 teams above us on the ladder, 5 have had their first bye while we get ours in round 12. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you didn't get points for the bye, Penrith would be in 9th right now. So it's I think obviously we've had the toughest run of the draw lately, and we've had the Roosters and Penrith, you guys, and we had the Storm in Melbourne, and then after that Storm Melbourne game, we had a real quick short turnaround to play the Roosters on the Sunday. So 5 days, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the NRL is, regards to the schedule, they haven't been kind to us. So
I didn't mind the fact that they gave you guys the Roosters so that you both had this short turnaround.
Yeah.
But the fact that and the Dragons too, because they played the same day. But the fact that Melbourne got to have a bye after it, I thought was really stupid. They should have had Melbourne on the Sunday as well, just to make the entire thing fair. And that way you can sort of remove, any excuses. But yet the fact that Melbourne got a week's rest after it, I thought was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a bit, it's a bit strange how the NRL does it, but it is what it is at the end of the day. So,
exactly.
I personally would have wanted a bit more. The NRL to do a bit more for the Warriors.
Yeah.
Just not giving us that sort of leeway. They're not being too kind on us with regards to the scheduling and that, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, Jack, thanks for coming on. I really do appreciate it. Natalie was supposed to come on. Not too sure what happened, but maybe she forgot. It's all good anyway. I was supposed to have another guest on, but, she unfortunately couldn't come on, but it's all good. No worries about that. But, thanks for coming on, Jack. it's been really. I really appreciate you coming on and having a chat with me in regards to this game on Saturday. And all the best to your Panthers for the rest of the season. And well, not on Saturday, of course, but yeah, I mean, all the best for this year. All the best for the rest of the year. And then thanks for coming on.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I followed your channel for a little while. I think I found you through Sam, through his channel, and I've really enjoyed the content you put out. So it was really, really exciting for me to be on here. And yeah, thank you very much for having me on. Good luck to your Warriors for the rest of the year, but like you said, not for this weekend.
Yeah. So thanks to everyone for tuning in and watching. Make sure you do go and check out Jack and Nat's podcast called the Big Chat Podcast. They do great content there. Penrith Panthers content. It's a great listen. They're always good chats as well. So make sure you go and check out the Big Chat Podcast. And go and follow their platforms as well. So go check them out as well. So thanks everyone for tuning in. And make sure you do like the live stream, or if you're watching it back, make sure you like the video as well, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're almost getting closer to the 2,300 subscribers, so getting very close to that mark. So obviously very close there. So if you are a new viewer and you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel and like the stream as well. But I will be back on Hold the Balls YouTube channel tomorrow night. Actually, I'll be on his channel talking all things NRL Magic Round and tips. So make sure you go on to his channel, and check that out as well. So thanks everyone for watching, and go the Mighty Warriors, and looking forward to Magic Round. Looking forward to being there on Saturday. Cheers everyone.